Surrender versus to do and doing. These two can and should exist together. Some people think that surrendering to the flow means that they cannot do any decisions or they lose control. Actually, when you really surrender to the flow of yourself, your higher self, and the perfect path of who you should be, and that is always available, you just find a way where you need to surrender. Then you can start doing with the flow and making decisions to actually be in the flow. So the flow and the surrender are just navigations in which direction you should be doing things. And as I said, some people maybe work more on like ego. Ego is creating to-dos and the goals and what it wants to do. And more you are aligned with the divine and your chakra system is open and aligned, less you can do through the ego. Ego, or when you are trying to act from the ego, when you are more and more aligned and your kundalini is more active, then you will feel pressure. So, and sometimes, of course, people may be searching, especially again, like when you had a tough life and even not just in the past, but even right now, something is there still bothering you about this experience in this realm that you are living in 3D realm. So there can be still some kind of resistance, and you are moving into surrender in a way that you are not doing, just resting. And only way you can feel not pressured is when you stop doing anything. And sometimes, of course, or not sometimes, but a lot of times that is necessary to realign, but it's also not about constantly avoiding pressure. It's actually making those decisions that when you find really alignment, it will shoot you in the direction of doing, and doing in the flow, in the surrender. So you can as well use the ego to navigate, You can use your ego to find out what is really in the flow, what is not stopping you. And of course, ego is not always just a negative thing, Usually you consider egoistic things that are more selfish or 3D or whatever else you want to use, that are just driven by external things, But ego in a general sense is also what is allowing you to think, to explore. And so it's the lens within this 3D experience, this incarnation that you have and you are experiencing. So it's the lens. So by free will and strength of the will, you can, or power of the will, you can redirect the lens, where it's looking, not looking in the directions that are not flowing well, and just redirecting them into, let's say, observation of your past self, observations of your processing, inner processing, not just what you choose in a 3D sense act on. And usually you need to, on a spiritual path, redirect the lens often. Many people who are, as I described, for example, are going down the road of choosing comfort, losing themselves in the comfort and only, or seeing that the flow is where is no hardship, and that is not how it works, because you are avoiding to look at what is something showing you. So if you have certain issues with something or some other people, some behaviors of others or yourself, or other things, and usually, of course, the reflections are coming from the behaviors of others. But it's always about your inner experience. By avoiding yourself, you are not really being spiritual, or you are not allowing yourself to progress in a spiritual sense as a being. So, in the sense, of course, if you are dealing with, for example, someone who is very toxic and is not really offering you any truths in their words, but still the feeling and something that they are giving you is about you, you know. And many times as well, especially avoidant people, they can avoid even just the reflections that someone without bad intentions or toxicity is offering them, and they are constantly avoiding it, you know. So whatever it is what you usually have to do is just to redirect that lens of ego lens in somewhere where you usually don't look. Overthinking is about just having the lens rigid, you know, not moving in, constantly doing, trying to figure out something in a way like where you are usually looking, in the same ways as before, thinking about stuff. Usually, what you really, as I said, need to do is to have that lens of ego movable, you know, that you are flexible to move it, to look at the things from the different angle, in a different direction, look at different things as well within yourself, not constantly repeating the excuses, for example. So all these things are holding you back from actually surrendering as well. You know, you need to be flexible in using your ego and the feeling of surrender. Surrender is also where you face your fear, you know, fear of that you are, if some reflection of me is true, you know, you are afraid that you are something bad, you know, or something in that sense, and then you cannot really progress. So you first need to surrender, facing the fear, you know, understanding that some fears are just really illusions. They are not there really. It's just something that you feel inside, and it's not really really like existential fear that would or the danger that would cause you some harm. When the fear is just about yourself fearing certain reflection, you need to surrender in the moment and trust, you know, have a trust, surrender, and then try to think about things in a different way. That will allow you to move the lens of the ego through which you can start or find the right path, and then start going in the right direction and really having the flow to do, you know. And in the flow, you are still making your decisions, you know. Look at it this way, like you are always in control in some way, you know, even when something is pushing back, you know, that you feel like reality is not manifesting well, or when you get the flow, you know. Some people don't like the idea of a flow, like it's not their decision to flow, but this is just the underlying energy that is carrying you, you know, the energy that is there, and you still have to, on the top of it, maintain your life. You constantly do decisions, small, bigger ones, and so on. But the control is in a way how you respond to where is the energy is taking you. Is it taking you into the blockage where it's not flowing, or is it flowing, you know? So sometimes people, especially those who like to be constantly in some way of control of the flow or whatever, you know, they don't like some even divine force to guiding them. You just need to change the way you are looking at it. You are looking at it as the flow, like it's something that it's above you, you know. it is stronger, and you cannot, when you imagine the flow of the, like really the alignment, and it's not that, like that you cannot make decisions, you have to do decisions always, you know. Look at it more as like downgrade it, a little bit downgrade to the what it means, the flow. Flow is something, again, like you are on, you know. Look at it as something like a river, you know. You are steering the boat, and it's up to you if you go into the spiral, for example, or if you bump into the end of the stream, you know, or the dry land, you know, that you cannot go on, you know, because you are only allowed to be in the flow, you know. So it's up to you, you know. And imagine also, like, it's not like, oh, but you know, like when someone who likes to be in the control, well, maybe I don't want to be on the river in the flow, I want to go on the land. But in this idea, the land is basically nothing. It's really the stagnation, and you cannot really move, you know, glide on it, you know. So there is not really anything there. So you can rather imagine, this was just imaginary, you know, like analogy. You can imagine that the flow of the river is just a stream, and existing in a void, and nothing is out there. So in order to move forward, it's just to be in the flow and to redirect yourself in a way that you can still be flowing, especially, as I said, when you surrender and you, with the right choices, you find the speed flow, you know, and then you can again do whatever you want to be doing. When you are in the flow, it will, for example, with the one maybe small wrong decision, it will not shoot you or stop the flow immediately. It will not. It's like a big river, and you can be steering. Like if you start making in a very strong flow wrong decisions, it will be slowing you down until you kind of like get out of it into the slow stream, or again stop going the spirals or whirlpools or something like that, you know. So it's always preferable for you to find the flow, and through that surrender and allowance, and then you will be truly in the control of your choices, you know. But who would want to have a choices in a way, programmed in a way that would be rejecting the flow, you know? It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, I know that there are some people who, even on spiritual path, who are interested in a lot of like a manifestation, pushing through the mind, you know, what to manifest. And they don't like even that they cannot choose what they are going to manifest. But again, if you want to go further with yourself, with your true self, the surrender to the flow of your own divine energy is the best bet, you know. If you would like to be pushing on manifestation, something that is not in alignment with your spiritual self, then you may find still the flow, but it's not going to be the true and the purest flow that would bring you bliss. So that's all what I wanted to suggest in the case where, or for the people who really need the understanding that not always pushing in a certain direction is the best for the spiritual growth, or even for the contact, you know, contact not just with the ETs or whatever, but the contact with the divine means contact with your other divine selves, basically.